What's up YouTube? How are you doing? Chana D, your Techno Dad here, and in today's video I'm going to be testing out 8K HDMI 2.1 cables in 10 to 16 feet to see if they pass. We're going to check it out right after the jump. And I'm back. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So you're probably wondering, well, this is an interesting video. Why did you decide to do this? And it's because a lot of you guys have asked, what HDMI 2.1 cables do I recommend in the 10 to 15 foot length? Okay, now as we all know, HDMI cables, the longer you go, the higher the risk or the higher the chance of something not working, whether it's the EARC, whether it's ALLM, whether it's VRR, or just passing, 40 gigabit per second signal. So I got that question because, people have different setups. They might need a 10-foot cable to go from their AVR or their console to the TV. You have to plug in directly because most of the AVRs don't have the proper chipset to run 4K 120 or 8K 60 with HDR due to that little, HDMI 2.1 chipset mismatch or whatever it is they're calling it. So people have that kind of situation, or they just want to upgrade their cable, or they're, redoing their setup and they have to go in wall. So they want to make sure it's one cable that works for everything. And they don't want to have to pull it out of the wall again. I'm sure that's kind of a pain in the butt. Or let's say you have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X and you can't fit in your main TV stand just because of the size and shape of the things. And you need a cable that's longer than the 6-foot cable they give with the console. At least I imagine it's a 6-foot cable. So if you need something longer, like a 10-foot cable, then, well, that's why you're here. So I went ahead and went onto Amazon and picked up 4 cables in the 10 to 15, 16 foot length to test them out on the Marantz SR7015. Now, why would I test it out on that? Because it actually has this HDMI diagnostics menu and we can actually do a cable test. So you're probably asking yourself, how do you test the cable with the AVRs? Well, basically you take one end of the cable and stick it into the output, and you take the other end and stick it into the 8K input. And I guess what happens is it just tries to send information from one of the inputs to the output through the cable, or the output to the input. I don't know exactly how it works, but I would imagine it's something of that fashion or of that sort. So once the cable connection has been made, we turn on the Marantz and just flip down this front panel here. We need to press and hold the back button and the up arrow. And then we jump into the HDMI diagnostic menu. It'll do like a hardware check. And as you see, there's numbers here. We have 7 options in this menu. We want option number 4, which is cable test. So if we press enter, it'll say testing, and after a little bit, we get one of 3 messages. The first one, or the one that we're looking for, is pass 8K 40 gigabits per second. The second one, 4K 18 gigabits per second, pass. 8K 24 gigabits per second, fail. And the third is a full-on cable test fail, which I imagine it doesn't pass either 4K or 8K. Now, before you get all crazy in the comments saying that 40 gigabits per second isn't full HDMI 2.1 bandwidth, and yeah, you're 100% right about that. It isn't, and we already know about this. I made a video about it, about what LG did, and it looks like all the AVRs are capped off at 40 gigabits per second instead of 48 gigabits per second. The industry is saying that it's not necessary to have full HDMI 2.1 bandwidth until we have 12-bit TVs, because that's what that extra 8 gigabits of bandwidth is for. It's for running 444, 8K, 12-bit color, something like that. So for right now, it's 40 gigabits per second. That's what the test is going to be, which is going to cover pretty much everything we have right now. So I made a spreadsheet to track all of the fails and passes and everything like that with these cables. And I also added a few other cables into the mix just to see what's up and see how it goes. Okay, so looking at this chart, as you can see, we have some passes, we have some fails, we have all kinds of stuff. So let's start off with the ZestKit 8K. Now this is a 16-foot length and it passed the 8K 40 gigabit per second test 4 times. So pretty much if the cable passed 4 times, I just stopped testing it because I would assume it would just continue to pass. Now, if you are looking at the 10-foot Zest kit or the 6-foot or 3-foot, if the 16-foot passes, then the shorter ones will definitely pass. I got this other one, the Pacroban 8K. It is a 10-foot cable, and it also passed the 8K 40 gigabit per second test 4 times. And this next one, the Sakai Moshu, I don't know how to pronounce that, 8K 15-foot. It passed 7 times, and it failed 9 times, or like half failed 9 times. The reason why I tested it more is because I got 2 passes for the 8K 40 gigabit per second, and then it failed like 5 times. And then I tried it again, and it would pass, and it would fail, and it would pass, and it would fail. And it looks like from my numbers, it fails the 8K 24 gigabit per second, which is less than the bandwidth that we need. So I would definitely stay away from this cable. Next is the Belkin 2.1, which I actually bought 3 years ago, and it's a 2 meters, so 6.6 feet, and this thing passed without any issue. I made a video about that cable 3 years ago, and this is the first time I'm able to actually test it, so that's kind of cool. Next one that I just bought is the Evanki 4K cable. It's a 4K cable. 15-foot, and interestingly enough, it passed 8K 40 gigabits per second 7 times. However, it did fail the 8K 24 gigabit twice, and it did a full fail twice as well. And this is the only cable that has done a full fail, meaning it's not passing 4K, it's not passing 8K either. So I know it's just a 4K cable. But if you look at the chart again, we have the Securomax 4K, which I recommended, plenty of times throughout the last 3-4 years the channel's been going on. And the 6-foot one will pass 40 gigabit per second 8K. And so will the Snow Kids flat 4K that I have a 3-foot of, I have a 6-foot of, and they all pass. So what is the deal with that? Well, in talking to Phil Jones from Sound United, he is Mr. HDMI 2.1. He knows everything you could possibly want to know about HDMI. And talking to him about it, basically, if the cable company makes a good quality cable, and if the length of the cable is short enough, chances are it'll probably pass 40 gigabit per second signals. So your cables currently that you have might actually work, and you may not have to buy an 8K cable. However, if you still wanted to, just to make sure everything's safe and everything's legit, cool. So this is a great little thing to see that the Snow Kids 4K 3-foot passed. The Securomax 6-foot 4K cable passed. However, the Evanki 4K cable at 15 feet is having issues. It's like either 50% it's working, or maybe it's like a 30% fail rate, I guess, a little bit more than half, right? For 4 fails and 7 passes. So definitely I would stay away from the Evanki, 15-footer. If you have something shorter, that'll probably work. So your 4K cables might actually pass the 8K 40 gigabit per second test if it's short enough and if it's a decent quality cable. Now, it just means that the cable was not 2.1 certified, and that's really all that matters. But if you look at this chart, that Moshu 8K cable was 2.1 certified, but that thing failed more than anything else. So, I don't know. It's one of those things. But I've been recommending the Zest kit already, and looks like it is a good one to go with, especially if you need something 10 foot or 16 feet or something like that. Now, while I was on the phone with Phil Jones, he did recommend that I should also test EARC functionality with the cables, especially if they're that long. Chances are you're going to be connecting up an AV receiver with a TV, so might as well check that. So I also figured I would check out VRR and ALLM as well. So to test EARC, I played movies on the Oppo UDP-203, plugged that directly into my LG OLED, and then went EARC into the AVR. Now I'm using the Denon X6500H for this because the only way to tell if it's actually coming in is with the app on the phone, and for some reason the Marantz app, I couldn't get it to connect with the SR7015. So luckily I still had the Denon laying around. And what was interesting is that I've heard that with some of the new updates to the LG, something's kind of gone wrong with EARC. And I did notice that I was not getting Dolby Atmos through EARC on the LG. So I think that was a limitation of the LG. However, I do have a 2019, so I figured DTS-X would still work, right? Because they don't have that on the new CX. So looks like everything was fine, as I was able to pass IMAX Enhanced from the Oppo to the TV to the AVR. So in all these cases, all of the cables worked as they should. They passed the EARC signal, the IMAX Enhanced signal from the TV to the AVR. So they're all good there. So for variable refresh rate and auto low latency mode, I went back over to the Marantz SR7015, as it has a second info screen, and I really wish the Denons had that. So normally when you press info, you get like an audio, what's coming in, what's going out. But on the Marantz, you also, if you press it again, you get video, what's going in and what's going out of the AVR. So that was really cool. So I put in, Xbox One X. And basically on this screen, you can see that VRR is coming into the AVR and going out as well. And you can see in the upper right here, we've got ALLM as well. So all of the cables did exactly what they should have been doing. I just kept swapping them out while I was playing, and they all worked. So that is good. All right, so after doing this, what did I learn? My original recommendation of the ZestKit 8K HDMI 2.1 cables is still a sound recommendation. I also noticed that this 15 or 16 footer is actually CL3 rated. So if you need to put an HDMI cable behind a wall, you're going to want to make sure the HDMI cable is CL2 or CL3 rated. And the other cable, the Pacro Band 8K 10-foot cable, is also CL3. So out of the 4 cables I purchased, I will be keeping these 2 because I don't know, sometimes I just need a 10-foot cable if I don't want to put an AV receiver in my rack and I just need to test like EARC functionality or whatever. I can just pop in the 15-foot cable and I'm good to go. And I don't need to deal with that. And sometimes I have to do that with the TV in the bedroom. So I have to move an AVR into the bedroom. It's just a big old mess. So just having some longer HDMI 2.1 cables that I know are going to work, that are tested, it's just going to make my life easier. So I'm going to keep those 2, and I'm going to return that Moshu or Moshao, whatever it's called. And I'm going to return the Evanki as well. So I put a link down in the description that'll take you to my Amazon page where you can pick up these 2 cables. And I just found out that AudioQuest released all their new HDMI 2.1 cables. So if you're an AudioQuest person and want to just buy one of those and not worry about all these different, Chinese brands or whatever they are, then go ahead and pick up the AudioQuest cables. They're HDMI 2.1, but they call them 48 gigabit per second. So if you're searching for them, don't search AudioQuest HDMI 2.1 cable, search AudioQuest 48 gigabyte per second or 48 Gbps cable, and you'll find their new cables. Or you just use my link down in the description and you're good to go. They have a whole bunch. I only put a few of them that are, under $100. So we know those things can get pretty expensive. Now, if you're thinking about getting anything larger, like a 25-foot or a 50-foot, like those start to get high up in price, like $150, $250. And I am going to tell you guys right now, I am not buying those to test those out. However, if you want to buy it because you need it, you can easily just send it to me and I'll test it out for you on the Marantz and send it back to you. All good. I'll send you my PO box. It's pretty chill. If you want to do that, shoot me an email, or hit me up in the comments down below and we'll kind of take it from there. So yeah, if you have any questions about this or anything else, let me know down in the comments below, or hit me up on social or email, whichever you like to use. Well, that's pretty much it for this video. If you liked it, go ahead, smash that like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel using the button in the middle of your screen. Once again, my name is Chana D. I'm your Techno Dad, and I'll see you next time.